So today we have Joe Knobbe and Matt Wehner. They are here today to talk about outsourcing versus the in-house solution. And they're each going to be a point-counterpoint argument about which one you should do. And as all of you are aware, two main issues we're facing in the industry now are finding skilled employees and the supply chain situation. Now, either doing this outsourced or in-house solution is what's going to be your solution to these problems. Joe is going to argue today about why you should outsource. Welcome, Joe. Do you want to give a little overview about your current role, what you're doing, and why you are such a huge proponent of outsourcing?
Thanks, Amanda. My name's Joe Knobbe, longtime member of the CMA, past president, and currently the senior project manager at Bovelli Custom Millwork in Bensonville, Illinois. Been in this industry for 30 plus years, and have a lot of experience with both, taking care of our own manufacturing in-house and outsourcing parts, components, complete projects, whatever it takes to get the job done. So thanks for the introduction, Amanda.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about some of the main reasons that businesses fail and why outsourcing is a viable solution for them. And then I believe the next slide kind of answers that question. So, and the main thing is lack of focus, as this image shares. Let's just go ahead and go to the next slide. So lack of time to focus on running your business, increasing sales, and getting profitable sales. And then finally, the other constraint is measuring your ability to focus on doing what you do best. Joe, over your experience in the industry, you've seen this a lot, and even in CMA member shops, where they lack this time to focus on these three things. And a lot of people think, I'm good at this. I started out as a cabinet maker, but now I'm running my own shop. It's hard to be a good cabinet maker and a good businessman at the same time. Would you agree with that statement?
I agree 100%. One of the things I like to think about is, you think about guys working physically in the shop, and they're running back and forth from their bench to a box of screws that's 6 feet away, and they're working, and they're busy, and they're productive all day long, and they're getting the job done. And then someone comes over and pushes the screws from 6 feet away to right next to them, and suddenly their production jumps drastically. And the same type of stuff can happen if you decide to outsource some of your product. Everyone knows there's not enough hours in the day, there's not enough highly skilled employees. You just can't do it all. And so we all run around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to get all of the work done and keep all of our customers happy all the time. And one of the ways that we can slow down a little bit and become more efficient, just like moving the screws closer to your bench, is to find companies that do what you do as well as you do or better, and outsource that product to them typically at a lower or equal cost. And even sometimes when the cost is higher, it's still more profitable in the end. So yes, absolutely.
See, and that important part that on this slide too is that the measuring your ability to do that. I think that's where the good businessmen come in, and women, and how they can figure out what makes the most sense. Do you have an example of where it made more sense and something you implemented at a previous job where you were doing it in-house, and then you decided, you know what, how do we measure this? We know we're losing money here. How do we make it more profitable by outsourcing?
One of the things that we did was outsource cabinet doors on a more consistent level, because it took people away from doing the things that they were really efficient at, and it tied up some of our machinery for longer periods of time. And we found out through trial and error and testing that there was a certain mix of our product, cabinet doors, that we could buy out at a lower cost and produce more product, and it freed up people in the shop. And certainly if you're a shop owner and you're out working on the shaper all day, coping and tenon cabinet parts, you're not on the phone talking to your customers, you're not scheduling work, you're not selling anything. So, those are things that all need to factor into those decisions to make sure that you're making the right decision for your company.
Yeah, and sometimes it is a gut decision based on your time. Good point. Good point. Anything else you want to talk about on this slide?
I don't think so.
Okay. So the other thing that gets in the way, another constraint, is the pride of a cabinet shop owner. I can do it better, faster, and cheaper than the competition. And by having someone else do it for you, I call that competition too. So these are rose-colored glasses on the slide. How does that image represent this point?
So, I guess I'll go back and talk about something that's, because we can talk about dovetail drawers or cabinet doors, and those are clearly, with dovetail drawers probably being number one, and then cabinet doors being number two, things that people in the custom, smaller custom cabinet shops outsource. But I guess what I'd like to talk about is the outsourcing of custom cabinet components or box parts. Prior to my taking this job with Pavelli, I spent a year working for Cabinage, which is a large custom cabinet component manufacturer. If you're not familiar with them, and they manufacture a frameless line of cabinetry and a face frame line of cabinetry, and they'll essentially make just about anything you want when it comes to custom cabinets. And one of the obstacles that I faced when I called on potential customers for Cabinage was, why in God's name would I buy cabinet boxes? I have material delivered to my shop. I have a saw over here and a drill. Why would I want to? Why would I do that? Then I'm just a assembler, and it's very, very complicated, difficult, and it has to be handled different ways, from a sales perspective, with different people, because there's a lot, people take a lot of pride in what they do. And one of the ways that I carefully tried to break that barrier down was, ask the question, do you outsource your cabinet doors? Oftentimes, especially with smaller shop owners, the answer was, well, yeah, I don't have all the equipment I need to make all these profiles that I can buy and all that. And then I would ask if they outsource their dovetail drawers. And the answer often to that question was yes as well. And then I would ask, the cabinet box itself is really behind the cabinet doors, which is really what your customer sees most of the time when they walk into their kitchen. So you're outsourcing that, but you're building your own boxes. How is that different? And it had to be approached very carefully because of this pride aspect, because we all take a lot of pride in what we do and the hand craftsmanship that we add to our product. And if it wasn't for that, and we couldn't provide this custom product, people would be able to go buy their stuff at Home Depot or Menards or Lowe's or some kitchen dealers down the street. And so that custom aspect is important, and trying to get people to understand that they can still continue to take pride in what they do and the way they do it, but they can also outsource those parts and have them delivered in a very cost-effective and efficient manner, so that they can concentrate on, increasing their ability to provide a higher quality finish, or doing a better job on installations, or doing research into better hardware and all that kind of stuff. So, it's a very touchy subject. We all take a lot of pride in what we do, and we have to identify what we can and what we can't do correctly.
So, Joe, I'm wondering, you talked about cabinet boxes, cabinet doors, to outsource. What are some other things that people should consider outsourcing?
That's a good question, Amanda. I'll tell you right now, here at Pavelli, we have a large project that we're bidding on, and another project, a smaller project that is in out in the shop being built right now. And they both have high gloss finish on them. The one that we're bidding on has a high gloss eucalyptus veneer finish, and the one that's out in the shop being built right now has a high gloss painted finish on it. And we do all of our own all of our own finishing in-house, except we made a decision shortly after I came to work here to no longer do high gloss finishes in-house. And we found a resource that will do those high gloss finishes for us. So it allows us to offer that to our customers. And there's a lot of traction in that high gloss finish in the Chicago market right now. It allows us to do that without having to, because it would require that we have a different spray booth makeup than we have right now. It would require different equipment and a lot of different prep work that we're not set up to handle right now. So we've made the decision to outsource it. We have a source that does a fantastic job for us. The cost is in line with what we need to be able to sell our product at, so we can afford to outsource, and it doesn't strain our finishing department, because when we're doing high gloss finishes, we almost have to shut down a portion of our entire finishing department in order to be able to handle those. So that's one of those things. Other things that are less obvious or more, I should say, are more obvious is outsourcing installation. When you're a small 2 or 3 man shop, when you take 2 of your guys out of the shop and leave 1 guy back in the shop to go out on an installation, then your productivity in the shop is severely diminished. So if it takes you a week to build the kitchen and it takes you 3 days to install it, that's 3 days of the following week. So you're only really working in the shop 60 to 70% of the time, which has a significant impact on your productivity. So finding someone who can do a quality job representing your company, installing your product, can also free up time for you to be more profitable and spend more time in the shop.
Those are great examples, Joe, especially the high gloss finishing. Any specialty finishes are something that, yeah, they may be fun to do, but they're so risky to do them right. And then definitely the installation, I know that frees up half your time to start on another project or sell more projects. I do know we talked during our a previous webinar on modern work about how modern jobs are a little more difficult to install because they're exact. But even Chris said in there, I asked the question of, do you still trust your installers to do those jobs? He says, now I do. I've trained them and now they're very good at it. So, but yeah, it's all different, but you have to find the right installer, obviously, as with any supplier. Did you have any final comments on outsourcing, Joe, before we move into Matt's portion?
No, I'm going to save it and interrupt Matt.
Can't wait. All right, so Matt is going to share his solutions in-house and why he's done the majority of his stuff. He's self-sufficient. So Matt, you want to give a little background about how you bought the company for people who may not have heard this story before, what you started with, and why you do believe that philosophy of doing things in-house suits your needs best.
Sure, absolutely. Hi, I'm Matt Wehner. I've co-owned Cabinet Concepts by Design with my wife, Shelly, for 14 plus years. We bought a shop November of 07. For those of you who are around, you know what happened in 08. So we really struggled to make ends meet 08, 09 into 2010. But we did make it. We started out with 4 guys in the shop, Shelly and I in the front office. And since then, we've grown it to about 40 employees right now. Went from 5,000 square feet under roof to a little over 30,000 square feet now. And how we did that is through trial and error on trying to figure out what we did best versus what we needed to outsource. And going through the whole history of our shop, there's a lot of things that we tried to sub out install. That failed miserably. Never did it again. We've kept our install crew in-house. And drawer boxes. It's funny Joe brings that up because when I joined the CMA, we were building our own dovetail drawer boxes, but in this area, everything was unfinished. So we just built unfinished drawer boxes, installed them, and then another finisher was responsible for finishing on site. Since then, we brought finishing in-house and quickly realized that our drawer department was taking up a huge amount of real estate. That combined with adding in the labor to finish those drawer boxes through time studies, through tracking our time very accurately, we found out it was costing us the exact same as it was for us just to purchase those drawer boxes and bring them in already pre-finished, palletized, ready to be installed in the cabinets once they come out of the finish room. So to grow the business, I think you guys touched on it a little earlier, but you really got to measure your time that your employees are spending on each activity, all the way from milling hardwood to sanding doors, to assembling doors and or drawer boxes, to assembling the cabinetry out into even in the install field.
Thank you. And then most recently, your most recent acquisition was the molding business. Do you want to explain what why you went that route? Yeah,
absolutely. So we've always tiptoed into making large investments in machinery. We had a cabinet shop that actually a local builder that we did cabinets for, decided to start his own cabinet shop, and he invested a large amount of money in a molder, an edge sander, several other pieces of equipment that we now own, because he figured out that building his own cabinets was really difficult. There's a lot of moving pieces and parts to the cabinetry part of home building than he even realized. So we invested in his molder. It was a 5-head Weinig a couple years ago, and realized real quickly how much savings we were absorbing back into the company, to the bottom line, by doing our own moldings. We made our own crowns. We started doing all our own door parts. And back before, we were doing our drawer sides too for our dovetail machine, since we've quit that. About a couple years into it, late last year, we had a molding company that got into financial trouble, went out of business, and we decided to make the investment in a larger molder, a new dust collector, and a gang rip saw to fill that void. And thankfully, for the 3 months that we've had it now, we were able to fill that molder up with wood being consistently ran through it, not just for our shop, but for other builders molding trim packages. So it was a calculated risk, still rolling the dice, but so far it's paying off.
and that's not the first time you've done that with investments in machinery, about starting on a smaller scale and then realizing that the option works for you, and then you move up to a bigger option. That is the subject of a whole different presentation, which you will be giving in person at AWFS in Vegas in a few weeks here. So
Yes.
if people haven't heard that, they should tune in for that one. We do have it archived, a similar version of it in our webinars too. But so let's go through some of the reasons of why someone would do in-house, and your reasons, particularly lower management costs. Do you want to talk about this a little bit, Matt?
So lower management cost with purchasing, you've got to have somebody still purchase. I don't know if it's actually lower. I'd say it's a little bit higher, because you've got the front end training on the front end that you've got to train your employees on how to run it. But hopefully that is a cost that then pays for itself later on, once you do get a quality employee put in the position to run the machinery. Case in point, we've been recruiting for our local high schools for over 4 years now. The very first year, 2 of the high schoolers that I hired as a summer job, one's still working for me on a part-time basis, but he's going to college and only works for me on his time off. The other student that I hired now is running our molding department. He has done a really good job of stepping up, learning, being very flexible, open-minded, and he's one that I have really taken a liking to, and he has appreciated the confidence that we've instilled in him to take this huge department and run with it.
Yeah, I like that what you said, the lower management costs in the end, but initially there is obviously more of a setup than.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about that more next week during the Q&A. But then the flexibility to me of doing something yourself is a good reason to do it. Because you have the ability to change the product if there's any last minute fixes, market needs change, customers needs change, and you don't lose time or manpower to do that. Do you have an example of this, Matt?
Absolutely. So I know Joe brought up the doors, outsourcing doors. We outsourced our doors. That actually the company that we purchased outsourced their doors. We quickly found out that it was much cheaper after the initial cost of investing in a couple shapers to build our own doors in-house, the flat panel doors. So we built all our own flat panel doors, outsourced still our raised panel doors. But through other machinery acquisitions, we're now doing every single door ourselves. We've got an RF gluer that does all of our glued up panels. Like I said, the molder that runs all of our door parts. Then we chop, coat, and everything for the door to fit together. But to this point is you're going to have misdrills on when you're drilling for hardware. It inevitably, with the nature of our cabinets, the customer picks out some obnoxious places to put some pulls from time to time. And if our pull schedule isn't clear and they misdrill, we need to get a door produced really quickly and out the door right away. So that is one of the advantages to having that set up. I mentioned that we are outsourcing our dovetail drawer boxes now. We do have a single spindle dovetail machine, a Powermatic, that we still have set up in the corner just for those off chances that a drawer gets screwed up, either CAD spit out a wrong size or what have you, but we're able to go ahead and still produce a dovetail drawer that matches all the other drawers and get that out quickly so that we can close the job out, request final payment, and move on to the next project.
So Matt, real quick,
Yes.
you said CAD spit out the wrong size. So you have a guy that works for you whose name is actually CAD?
Russell.
Russell.
Russell. Yes, so he Russell, sometimes Cabinet Vision will have glitches in it if a part was moved. So how we operate, we have technical designers that draw for our project managers. And if they move a part inside a cabinet that renders it unintelligent, and Russell doesn't catch that, then there could be some parts that are kicked out on all of our cut sheets that are the wrong size.
No human error there. It's definitely the CAD stuff.
There's a lot of human error.
And then the quality improvement too. And we're going to go into this further on the next slide because it's more about control. And which was Joe's argument against it. You have to give something up. Mm-hmm. But if you have the ability to do it, should you do it? What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, you can. I would not outsource anything that I would not get equal quality back. For instance, our drawer boxes. We order ours from Hardware Resources. They produce a very fine dovetail drawer box. The finish is great on it. We have not seen any decline in quality. So I don't know the improved quality. I would say at least equal quality if you're going to outsource anything. Keeping it in-house, I think my biggest advantage that I like to do the doors in-house, build our boxes in-house, is the speed that we can reproduce a box and or a door with the same quality that I'm sure that I could buy it from a cabinet notch or any other door manufacturer.
Speed is a great reason to in and of itself. Let's talk about the controller production. So you can plan for the production spikes. You know what's coming. You don't have to compete with anyone else's products. You can alleviate capacity constraints with your machinery and your people. Save time and money logistically is the obvious one. And you can stay local. You don't, overseas competition is the big deal right now. And you contributing to the own local economy by doing it yourself. How do you feel about those reasons, and are they in line with how you operate your business, Matt?
To a point, to Joe's counterpoint on mine, I would love to just buy all of our cabinets, moldings, doors, drawers, bring them in on a big flatbed, unload them, and then install them. I mean, that would put all the responsibility on somebody else making all the mistakes. But it does. I don't know if I would enjoy that as much if I got into it, because I enjoy our camaraderie here around the shop. So we've built an awesome team of 40 people, guys and girls. You can see Callie there. She was my lead door person. Now she's out in install. She's in charge of punch out and quality control out in the field. Shelly and I both played college athletics. And so we've always been around team atmosphere, where everybody comes together for a common goal, common cause that we all share in. And just recently, in the last 2 years, we've started a profit sharing so that everybody now can see numbers, and they actually are excited about what they come to work for, that they know that they're in it to, one, have fulfillment in their project, because it is a rewarding job to be a craftsman, to be a woodworker. And then two, to get rewarded monetarily at the end of the week is, I think, icing on the cake.
Great point, Mayor Matt. And I like how you actually created a culture of doing things in-house.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting philosophy there. That was all I had for the presentation. Do either of you want to do your closing arguments? And then next week, we'll pick up with the Q&A from the audience about their thoughts and questions about both of these different options for how you handle your production. Joe, I'll let you go first.
A couple of points that I'll bring up too, and I'm sure that Chris probably touched on this a little bit in his modern seminar, but we have the ability here at Bavelli to do laser edge banding, which is important if you're in that acrylic, edge banded market. But when I was with Exclusive Woodworking, where I was at for years, we made a decision not to buy a laser edge bander based on the cost and just outsource those parts, figuring that, it was probably going to be somewhat of a trend. Maybe it would last 5, 6, 7 years. And then, we would have made that large capital investment in that piece of machinery that was still a useful piece of machinery. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Everyone needs a high quality edge bander, but maybe you don't need those laser capabilities any longer. And so there's two sides to that coin. There are companies that you can buy laser edge banded panel products from, with very quick lead times, and they provide not only the panel product, but the edge banded product as well, and it's very efficient. The other thing I'll say about dovetail drawers here at Bavelli, we made our own dovetail drawers for the longest time, and there are some people here that believe that we should do everything in-house, and the other camp understands that we shouldn't and can't do everything in-house. And so we had an opportunity a couple of years ago to do this large project for the Tribune building downtown Chicago, which was the Tribune Publishing was their office building for very, very long time, and it's being converted into condos. And so we've done all the cabinetry in all of those units, and there's 160 units or something like that. So it's a lot of work. There's a lot of kitchens. And one of the things that they understood, and this happened before I came to work here, was that they were going to have to outsource their drawers. We weren't going to be able to do it in-house. And so they hooked up with a very good, high quality dovetail drawer manufacturer in Indiana, which isn't too terribly far from here, and they've done a great job. But the initial thought was that we would outsource those Tribune drawers, but we would continue to make the rest of our drawers, because we thought that our drawers were better than what we could buy. And it didn't take too long for them to understand that the drawers that we were buying were of better, more consistent quality. And frankly, the price was very, very competitive. So there's that aspect too. And then, we've had the opportunity to try and work on some projects where cost was a little bit more of a factor, and having a dovetail drawer wasn't so important. And what a lot of people in today's market forget to realize too is there's more than one way to buy an outsourced drawer. So you don't have to just outsource a dovetail drawer. There are French dovetail drawers. There are 9-ply edge banded drawers that are rabbited together and glued and clamped, that can get you at a different price point if you need to be there. Because I know that there are some shops that outsource their dovetails, but still continue to make their less expensive drawers. And when they've done the time studies, they found out that they can actually outsource that darn dovetail for pretty close to what it costs to make what they consider to be a less expensive drawer. So if you need something that's less expensive, try and find something that's less expensive. It's probably out there as well. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Joe. Matt.
I think I'm good. I think, to both points on outsourcing or keeping in-house, it's really, you have to make that determination yourself. You have to measure things. If you're not measuring things, if you're not tracking your time, you're going to just be rolling the dice and hopefully you don't throw craps. But if you do realistic, accurate time studies, you should be able to pick out a few items in your shop that you can outsource and not sacrifice your quality and improve your profitability ultimately.
Absolutely. Well, great points from both of you. It was a really good start. Now let's pick this up again next week. And you people on the call today and those of you watching the recorded version, let's think of all your questions and we'll continue the conversation. Thanks so much, Joe and Matt. Talk to you guys next week.
Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Thank you.